The idea we're talking about today is we're focusing on the channel of networking, right? We're going to push aside paid ads. I want to talk about that another time because I'm getting a lot of data on that too right now. And those channels, we're going to push aside the idea of content and organic. We're going to talk about network effect because that seems to be what most people that we are watching and seeing are experiencing a lot of success with. When we talk about network, and before we go down this road, it'd be great for everyone to think about what it means to do network marketing. Does it mean word of mouth? Does it mean referral? Does it mean affiliate? Like, what are you thinking in terms of like using your network? And I think it's very situational as far as where we are in our careers, right? Because I see tons of providers like, you know, people that have been doing this a really long time, that have been doing it for 20 plus years, that are saying like, I'm booked solid. I'm getting, kids are coming back from college and trying to book appointments with me. And that is a very different place to be in. That is the goal, right? So in my personal studio, network marketing, I don't really do anything except have invested in trying to be an awesome provider for the past 20 years to my community in Seattle, right? And when you look at this on paper, you're going to be like, oh, I think I really get this. This idea that you want to be top of mind when someone is searching with intent, right? That's the kind of network that is the goal. And I'm seeing this across everything else, right? And so as we look at both of these, we want to get to when someone that you know in your network is looking for something, right? And they're like, man, I'm looking for piano lessons. Do you know anybody? They might ask you, right? And you're like, oh, then it's fun. Then it's fun to share your referral, right? If someone asks you for your opinion, we love to share opinions. Our network, our community loves to share that opinion, right? And that is super powerful, is that when someone says, hey, who's the guitar teacher in, West Seattle? And 3 people they ask say, oh, you got to call Branner, right? He's been doing it forever. That's, I've gotten probably 6, 10 leads in the last couple weeks. They've all been because of that. They've all been like, oh, I talked to this kid and they said you did this. And I talked to somebody else and they said to call you too. And that is like the goal of network marketing. And it's long tail. There's no short path to it, right? It's like doing what you do for a long time. Steve, is a kind of a textbook example of that, of being in that position of knowing all the directors. I've been in the community a long time, having a big body of work. So the reality that we see from a lot of people is that they're kind of, is that network marketing, right? What we think is, hey, I'm Eric, I'm new to this town. I'm going to call out to all my friends and I'm going to ask them to pitch my service, right? This is where a lot of us live. And it's another side of network marketing, which is 1,000,000,000% harder, right? Because, and I don't know, you guys are musicians, right? A lot of you. And I'll just, over the years, my creative products that I've done, shows and gigs and concerts, the reality is a lot of my close musician friends never really supported the work I did, right? And I don't hold it against them, but and a lot of them do too, but I'm sure if you've worked in this industry, you've seen it, which is if I say, hey, I'm doing this thing, will you tell your friends about it? They sometimes do, but they don't. It's a lot harder to get someone to get an ask without intent, right? And that's the big thing, is we want to shift our network strategy to be top of mind when someone is looking, as opposed to being like, hey, I'm doing this thing, right? And both sides of it work, but does that kind of make sense? What I'm kind of describing here is these two different ways that we look at how we put ourselves out there. I'm saying, hey guys, I'm going to start doing this thing. Please tell all your friends about it. Or having your friends' friends ask your friends, who's the best person to take piano with in Bend? And be like, oh, you got to see Corey. She's the best, right? That second one is way more powerful, right? And it's way more easy to be authentic, because then the person that's doing the networking, the referring, is just coming from a place of authenticity, trying to be helpful to the consumer, not just to their friend that's trying to start a new business, right? So if we happen to be in either one of these spots, right, we want to be really aware of them. And if we're focused on this moment right here, right, which is saying, hey, I've got this new thing, I've got a course I'm putting out, I'm going to try to get my friends to do this, then, and I'm trying to bring in new customers that I haven't had before, right? In that case, then we're hustling, right? And that is where we are today, right? Which is saying, hey, I'm going to do a content strategy. I'm going to become situationally aware of my community, right? I'm going to amass my email list. I'm going to talk to my church. I'm going to create content. I'm going to set up a referral program. Well, I will pay you for every new client you bring in, right? And this is just hustle, right? And what we get is it's really hard, and it often feels like it's not working, right? It's creating a flywheel, this circle where you're like, oh man, I did all this work and I only got one customer out of it, or I only got a handful of leads and nobody converted. But this is really the only way, is this path of being awesome and just keeping grinding out to where you get to the point of someone that's a veteran in a community where people want to actively refer them, right? So I wanted to look at this and just say, hey, honestly, where are we? Where are we in our cycle of networking? And then how do we make choices of where to focus our energy, right? So if anybody has any quick comments or questions to clarify that, hopefully it made sense. But what I'd love to do is say, okay, what do you think about this? And where do we focus? Do we create a networking strategy through saying, okay, what I can do today is an email campaign. Now I've got X amount of emails. I'm pushing this out saying, hey, I'm new to Bend. I'm teaching piano. Or is it more, are we working more in the way of just reaching top of mind with people? So does anybody have something they'd like to share or a comment? Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. I mean, what I was thinking about, I was reminded about somebody that had made kind of like this is the best way to describe it. It's prioritizing which thing is important or which thing is not as important or which thing is urgent but is not important. Because I think there's different scenarios of marketing. It can seem overwhelming to somebody that's starting a business. And I think what people have to decide on which is the most important thing first to generate some clients or at least some leads. I think for myself, the mistake was always to, at least when I was starting out, because I'm always going to make a new mistake today. I think the thing is that my mistake was always to think that everything was so urgent and so important that I got overwhelmed and I wouldn't do anything. I would just play my gigs and say, oh my God, I'm just not going to be able to do any of this. But I learned that if I can just pick one thing that was really important and make it the most urgent thing and work on that for a while, I thought that was a good strategy. So
I think that's awesome. And I think you pegged it, which is that everybody here that's been doing this a long time, you all know how important those first couple customers were, right? Is that you get one customer and then you realize whether or not you love the work or not. And if you love the work, right, it's going to show. And then those customers are going to bring you more customers. And that's why, I just always go back to the idea. It's the hustle, right? Of getting that really devoted small following. And that's where your phase, you have to be razor focused on that, right? And we're all at different spots. That's a great comment, Mike. Thanks. Steve, did you want to say something? Oh.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, a number of things. We can, let's see. There's a few different things I want to jump in with. Sometimes when we go, how do I sell more of what I'm selling? I need more customers. It's really, as I keep saying, really a student of Seth Godin, flip this around, really knowing who are the people that you're serving. We're in the service business, and what are their needs and problems and desires, and what can we offer to serve these people? And for me personally, this is shifting a bit. I'm still doing some lessons. I have those referrals coming in. But through the years as a saxophone teacher, I get almost all my referrals directly from band directors. Parents say, my kid needs to take lessons, and the more I'm top of mind, like you're talking about, I'm not doing ads, I'm not putting up flyers. It's all referral based and building a network. And same thing, if we're hiring a babysitter or a mechanic, you're not going to click on a Facebook ad probably for a babysitter. You're going to ask your neighbor. It's all that, as those of us that are operating within a region. And And now, rather than going, oh crap, I need more students, I've built these relationships with these band directors. So I'm like, well, what do they need now? And they're all scrambling to teach online and have not done it before. They can't run their ensembles. And that's where like my first online course came from that is up for free. You know, I'm like, hey, here's some material your students can use. It's based on what I've been teaching in workshops and lessons, but now you can send your students to do it so your jazz band will have something to do. And people have been paying for it. And I was trying to design it in a way that passes. Eric, do you know the forehead slap test?
No, tell me.
Oh,
What's the forehead slap
this is
test?
one of my guiding things. You know, you the problems that keep you up at night, where no one's like, oh, I have no music to listen to. I better download Steve's album right now. Like that never happens. Like that's not that. Me releasing music doesn't usually pass the forehead slap test, and someone's really serious. But people go like, oh, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with my band, or like, what's the problem that keeps someone up at night? Like an urgent thing that you're serving. You know, I have a new student who just signed up who said, I'm looking for something to do. I'm in 8th grade. I've never played music before, but I really want to join marching band in 9th grade, you know. So then their family's like, oh, well, what can we do to get our kid, you know, that may have passed the forehead slap test. But we're tapping into something that is just some kind of more urgent need of folks. And if people urgently need private lessons at this moment, we can connect with them. But there may be some other ways to offer something slightly different that's still all within our same lane of what we've been doing. So, I mean, as examples, I've been doing some online group improvisation workshops, and these are things I've never offered before, but it's really closely related to what I was doing earlier. But I'm serving a bunch of the same people. I'm not looking. It's all just based on my network I've already built.
Yeah,
So I
and
hope that makes I hope that makes sense. But we started with the people we're serving rather than, oh crap, how do I sell more of this thing?
I love your forehead slap, Steve. That's glorious. And you
Yeah.
know, so Steve, for you guys that don't know Steve, you should follow what he does. I mean, when it comes to top of mind, there's nobody in Seattle that's done this better. Or I mean, even I would say in the jazz scene in general, he's, you know, you're putting out a ton of content that people need based on what they need. Everybody respects you. Plus you've had, you know, this crazy resume, couple 18-month run of, you know, just having from the New York Times to just all these great things happen to where, yeah, when I think about, you know, horn instructors or trumpet instructors or whatever, jazz saxophone, whatever, who's the person to talk to? It's like, talk to Steve. Like, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. And it's just because you just kept doing stuff, you know, when we've known each other for years, and it's great. And it seems like you've had this overnight kind of success, but it's like, you've just been grinding it out, doing good work, raising your family, working hard for a long time. And it's really, now you're there, you know, so.
For whatever, yeah, another kid, and I'd always heard about it. Yeah, the 10-year overnight. I mean, for whatever level of success this is, but yeah, I mean, enjoying the work and the journey, and you know, we're artists, we're creating, but also in the service, you know, we're serving others. So just yeah,
Well, and
we're grinding on that for a long time.
along that road is an encouragement. And, you know, because I was I talked to at least 5 or 10 people that work in the same business we do every day. It's kind of, you guys know, I love to chat. And I see so many folks that are so bitter about this path, right? Because of, and it's like, they honestly shouldn't be working for themselves because they're not they're not interested in the risk. They're not open to the creative necessities that we have to do to inject ourselves into a community. Maybe they don't enjoy people much. And you have to have this combination and a really long tail strategy / commitment to sticking with it. And maybe that involves trying other things or picking up new skills, but you know, it's not for everybody. And that's something that I feel like is, the longer I do this, the more I'm aware that there's certain, you know, it can be for anybody, but it's not inherently for anybody because it takes a lot of commitment and a long-term vision. Thanks, Steve. Does someone else have a thought or concept they'd like to share? Allison, did I see you reaching for that? You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a different take on getting your word out there, but I've really benefited from social media of my lessons and things. I know parents have posted pictures of, you know, in-person recitals and things like that when I was doing those, when I could do those. And then some parents have posted pictures of, doing their kids doing the online lessons with me. And I've thought about, and maybe this is something you could take away, now that we've been doing this for a while, but maybe just, I've thought about asking some parents, I give them like a discounted lesson coming up if they would help promote by putting like a picture of us doing an online lesson, put that out to their network. If they think it's going well right now, which it has really gone well, for the most part, why not offer that to them? And that gets that word out to their networks, that this is something that can happen during this time, and it can happen well. And it gives their kid a break in the day. It's not schoolwork online. It's not TV. It's not, it's not video games. It's something different. That's just something that I haven't offered the discount yet, but I have done discounts for other things. For like, I offered discounts to parents if they would give me like a good, Facebook review or something, to kind of bump that, to get that started. And it's worked out pretty well for me. So, just a thought, just an option.
Well, and there it begins the path of what are actionable items we can do wherever we are, right?
Right.
If you're just getting started out, it's a grind. So you got to pick, do you like being on video? Do you like writing a lot? How do you like to communicate to your people? If you've been around a while, it's a great time to say like, how's your email list looking, right? And like Allison's idea saying, I'd love for you, if you post videos or images of this online recital we did, or of the lessons we're doing, that's really powerful. How do you ask people to do it, Allison? Do you do like a bulk email, or do you ask them individually?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes if it depends on how much money I want to give away. Really, if I don't want to like, want everyone to be, taking $5 or $10 off a lesson. Maybe there's a couple families that I know for sure will just give really good, well-worded reviews or well-worded posts on social media, or who are really, who I know have really good networks. I'll think about that before I ask them, and I'll ask them specifically to do a post. And so maybe I'll just ask 4 or 5 people to do that.
Hey, Allison?
Yeah.
Have you ever tested, and this is something that I wonder a lot. So in my heart, I rarely get super excited about a discount or some kind of referral fee. It's just something that's never really moved me to action a whole lot, as much as it is the idea of helping people. Like all my kids' providers, I feel like that are online with them right now, I'm just out there hoofing it for them. I'm like putting up content for them of their appointments.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be interesting to see what the conversion rate of a person putting out a piece of material for you would be with the spiff or without it? I don't know if you've tested it. I don't know if anybody else sees this too. I think it depends on where you live and what your demographic is like. But it would be interesting to know that, we've seen sometimes people actually get more traction on a concept by just asking and saying it really helps.
And that can work too. And often, the response will be, I'll just do it for you without even needing a discount or something, but I'll still offer that just because, they're taking the time, and sometimes they're busy people. And I just feel like I should do something for them. So, so that's just my own prerogative, but, whatever works best for you and the clients that you work with. So, play around with it.
So let's do this. Let's talk to somebody that could use some help. Let's say, because this is a super crew here of, let's do a case study. Like, who's somebody that is needing to get the word out, needing to do some building, needing to bring in some new customers. Dude, let's do it. So Michael, you've got this great new studio in Tacoma, right? And let's just do this exercise.
Right.
You're from Tacoma, right?
Correct.
You grew up in Tacoma.
Correct.
Right. You have a
lot of people here. Yeah.
You know a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And you also, Tacoma has a slightly different economic. I'm sure it's being impacted somewhat differently, maybe than Seattle is, or
It seems like it. It seems like people are very hesitant to spend money.
Yep. So that's that environment.
Yeah, exactly.
and people are, although hesitant, they still have kids, they still have stuff, they need some structure, and you know that they are desperate to have that, because whether they're home or not, that's really challenging. So
Actually,
what are you currently doing?
well, I actually took your advice when we chatted on the phone call the other day, and I changed kind of my Facebook ad. And actually, in response to just talking to a couple other people and doing some research on the topic, I lowered the amount I was spending on ads on Facebook. But I changed kind of the content of the ad to address kind of the forehead slap of right now, which is, oh my God, what the hell do I do with my kids? And I kind of emphasized in the text, like, if you are a member of the music lab, there are a total of 14 contact hours a month for your membership fee that are going to be supervised by a musician. Like, this is a great deal for you. This can provide some structure, goals. Um, I just threw that up yesterday, though, so we'll see.
Got it. And currently you're just looking for a hand, you're close to full, is that right? You're trying to get ahead of it?
I personally am close to full. Um, like a couple of others in here have said, I'm a little bit worried about the teachers that I employ.
Classes in 20 minutes.
Um, I'm a little bit worried about the teachers that I employ. So my violin teacher is doing all right, but I'd like to get her more. I just hired a new piano teacher who only has one, and he is just like the poor thing. He's always like, "Do you have any hours for me? Do you have any hours for me?" And I just feel so bad. I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm struggling too to find people. So, and I have tapped my pre-existing network, but I don't know if I've done it particularly effectively. So I have done the whole, like, if you, in fact, a couple months ago, I did a sort of like, if you, what I thought was a really good incentive. If you find me, every new student you bring me, I'll cut 25% off your monthly fee. So like a person for like a year. So like a person could theoretically score a totally free music education for their kid if they send me 4 people, which I thought was a good idea, but I only got one person out of it.
Got it. It wasn't super effective. Well, see, and
Yeah.
that's the great thing about this is you can test it, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly,
these ideas can work, and you
all
can
trial and error.
yeah, and test. What about, have you you have a piano teacher that needs students?
Yeah.
Have they worked to do some top of funnel stuff where maybe you do like a Facebook Live, or at Fridays at noon? I mean, people that are doing that are getting a ton of success across the boards.
That's the next thing that I'm gonna try, actually. What is today? Today's Wednesday.
I mean, depending on how charismatic they are, you have to be honest about that too, right? Because that takes someone that can get on and be like, okay, every Friday at noon, you guys get a break, being the parents, sit your kids down with the keyboard or not, and we're going to do music time, whether it's vocal exercises, whether it's singing songs together.
Yeah.
We have people lined up that we watch in our family almost every day, that we're doing it because it's a great thing to put on the calendar, right?
Not to sound critical, I would not do that with this particular teacher.
Okay.
I would do it myself, though.
Yeah, the thing I was going to wonder, Michael, and glad to meet you, man. I've been participating in a bunch of songwriter Zooms a couple of times a week where, pros are playing for each other because we're stuck at home.
Yeah.
Gigs. So I was wondering if we could morph that idea into something where you had your entire roster of teachers where you did a Zoom concert performance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your school that way. I mean, it's not just limited to that. I mean, because if you're talking about that somebody has less than the stellar charisma that you're looking for, if he's not Liberace, then maybe what you want is everybody collectively is bringing everybody up.
Sure.
So I think if you did like something like that, if you're trying to promote your
idea.
school, I would do that and help your teachers individually as well.
That's a good idea. I appreciate that. That'd be fun. Just get some easy forehand piano stuff that he and I could sight read. That'd be fun.
And I would just, if you guys are songwriters, I would just totally, let it rock. Do your grunge, do your Beatles, do your jazz. I mean, play your own stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, forehand stuff, I get that. But I would say, really play your performances. I mean, my girlfriend Annie, who is a performer here in Texas, I mean, she's been making masks for like weeks. and she's promoting her music business because she's been making masks for all these healthcare workers and stuff like that. It's these added value things that have nothing to do with your core business, that has a lot to do with generating your community presence. And I would just say keep that in mind too.
Oh, Steve Tressler likes that, doesn't he?
Good input.
Masks.
I
Yeah,
saw your
that's
face
awesome.
light up.
That sounds good. So, Michael, when we go back to in-person teaching, if and when someday, so you're still going to be Tacoma based. I mean, that's the core of your business.
Right.
You're not necessarily looking long term to bring remote lessons from distant places.
I'm absolutely open to that. And in fact,
Okay.
somebody in here mentioned, I think it was Tiffany, that her students are doing like surprisingly well, and mine are too. Like a lot of them are growing more than they were in person.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that is because I'm offering all these sort of like, online practice groups and things like that. But I don't know, they just seem to click. It's just, I don't know. So yes, I'm totally open to it. To
Okay.
answer.
I
But
think that really.
Tacoma. Oh yeah.
No, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Tacoma based. I mean, finding ways this summer as we hit certain phases as our state is reopening, hopefully safely and in organized fashion in different phases, as ways that you can connect people together with some. I know some of these places are doing like these drive-in concerts, or so I want to host this socially distanced jam session at Magnuson Park with this group. Later on, if this is safe to do, have everyone stand 10 feet apart out in a big field and have a big jam session, or some ways that you can actually even do probably outdoors, or other ways that you can do, be on the front end of some in-person events as they're safe to do, not necessarily packing your indoor studio with an open house, but outdoor stuff this summer, just so it feels like people have something to go to and they associate it with your studio, and then people want to be a part of it.
So it feels
That's why
like
I was
the
asking if
takeaway
it's
to me is just like visibility. Just be visible doing what you love. Is that fair? That's good input.
Yeah, absolutely. And then people, even if they're not going to sign up, when they go, oh, we need piano lessons, I'm like, oh, this dude that's playing in the park, or whatever you're doing, some kind of community event, where you're not directly saying, hey, you need to sign up, but so then you're again more top of mind, is what Eric was talking about. You're visible, and people think what you do is awesome, and then they'll do the marketing for you.
I like it.
Very cool. It sounds like you're doing great stuff, Michael. I mean, you're definitely ahead of the game. Have you done a quick situational awareness of all of your assets, like because like a lot of times we overlook different channels as far as groups, like within our community, that we can, whether it's blast an email out, right, which is effective, and being like, hey, if you know anybody that's really struggling with giving their kids something to do, I'm here, I've got this thing.
So I would say I've been woefully insufficient in that regard, actually. I had this whole like 2020, and I'm not blaming it on Corona, that's like the fashionable thing to do, but like I had this whole 2020, I'm going to guerrilla market and it's going to be amazing. And then, so, but that's another good thing. Like I could connect with band directors, orchestra teachers. Like I know all your kids are just going crazy right now. We have this awesome program to supplement what you're doing. This is all good input.
Yeah, and what I've seen too, because I'm observing the sports community, because there's all these different, especially we're in city, there's all these different athletic, circles, right? Which I knew nothing about, but I understand from the business perspective now because my kids are into them. Right. And you had like all these coaches that suddenly their teams couldn't play, and you had one of two things happen. You had coaches like, okay, I'm going to do an online thing. I'm going to do online group classes, and they're just exploring it and they're crushing it. And the people that didn't do anything, they've lost their players, right? And now everybody's trying to scramble to do it. But, it was just one of those moments where it was a vacuum. And, because I want to jump into another scenario, is that one thing we know for sure is that we cannot plan like we normally used to be able to plan. Like that's all that, I'm just trying to be awesome, trying to do what I can do, and having no attachment to my plans, because we can't look at Q4 of this year and say, this is what we're going to do then. So we have to just be quick on our feet, try things, keep bringing people in, keep being like really compassionate to whatever situation people are going through. And I feel like it's also kind of the fun thing about this moment, right? Is that it's just strategy changes where we have to try something, let it go. Look at the moment, be like, okay, I can't go out for a while now. Or yes, I can do these, I can do concerts.
What's that saying? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to say Corona. I'm far from saying Corona is a blessing. However, there have been some positives in my studio in terms of innovation. So yeah.
Absolutely. Is there somebody we haven't heard from yet? Does somebody want to share something or have something they're chewing on? Please, feel free.
I'll jump in.
Tom.
So before this whole thing happened, my friend who created my website and did all my marketing materials, I had this idea of creating a business card that that would have a special link on it, or like a discount code, you could say, that would be attached to the parent or student who handed it out, so that when that new client shows up and says, "Hey, I heard from Sherry that I want to get a lesson." Well, the special card itself gives a free intro lesson plus also 10% off the first month if they sign up, but they only get it from this card. And then I track back here who actually gave them that card, and then at some point give a little kickback. And but what I found actually is that most parents love the satisfaction of having more of their friends taking lessons.
Totally.
and feeling like they gave a gift of a free lesson to their to somebody else, as opposed to them just getting that kickback. So like they feel more proud and satisfactory. If that makes sense.
No, it makes it. It's just it's the human nature of it, right?
Yeah.
We want to be. I observe it myself when I'm pushed. Like my kids are studying with somebody, and I love talking about them because I love being the person that knows that person.
Yeah.
And that is, we get a great joy from feeling like we're somewhat experts on who the great providers are, or have a window to connect you with someone that's a perfect fit. And it's like, how do we cultivate that, right? And build a strategy around letting that happen, and really can't control intent. And that's, I guess that's like the final level of the question is like, what can you do to create intent in your community, which would be a whole nother conversation. That's the kind of stuff, Allison, you're doing a lot of where you live, right? Getting people interested, long tailing it, and then being there, which is awesome. Thanks. Anybody else? Johnny, Josh, Tiffany, you want to share something with us? Karen, we haven't heard much from you.
What I've been wrestling with recently is I wonder if I'm one of those teachers who I will teach any skill level. Literally, I can get joy out of anything, even if all we're doing is trying to match the same two notes the entire lesson. But at the same time, I've got it seems to me like the spectrum of types of people I will work with well. The people I work with well come back over and over again, and I've gotten some great reviews from them. But it seems to be a very narrow slice of the population, namely the slice that tends to be over analytical, and over analytical, but you've talked with me before. I can be kind of scary intense, and that appeals to some, especially as a voice teacher. That appeals to some people, and they're usually the people who are just singing for the joy of it and because they want to figure out how to do it just for its own sake. But it's hard for me and those are people who really engage in the process. And really, even if you want to do it professionally, it is my belief that you need a certain amount of being able to get out there and be okay with imperfection, which is something that I'm learning for myself. But you also have to have a huge willingness to do the nitty-gritty detail work. And I don't know, like I had a colleague, I'm being long-winded, I apologize. I'll try to get around to the point of this all, but I recently had a colleague who's about my age, who's also an opera singer, also studied this professionally, and in the Ukraine of all places. And she's trying to put her technique back together. And she came to me and we had kind of this impromptu voice lesson. So like I'm good at this, but the type of people that I work with, well, I'm just having the hardest time figuring out, am I being too limited? Because the alternate people who come in and want to have consistently something to put out, or to, who aren't willing to kind of engage in that process, I find myself extremely drained at
Okay.
the end of that. So I don't know.
So
I'm trying
Karen,
to figure out whether I'm doing this right.
that is the most lovely thing to hear. And Tom was just like, oh, that's your niche. I mean, that, and so what you're saying, because I know you, and it is so, and I've seen you light up. Like, we did this. If you guys haven't all watched the Vocal Mastermind we did with Tom and Karen and Allie Tyler on how to survive speaking online, it is the coolest mastermind. It was so awesome. And, Karen, I love that you're like, yeah, you said I'm scary intense. Like, that's what I love in a teacher. I want someone to crush me. My last great guitar teacher stressed me out so bad that I would leave his house and go to Wendy's and eat get French fries, and like sit in the parking lot and eat French fries, like sweating. And I was like, that was awesome, and, but everybody has a different thing that they're wanting. And if you know that, you should lean into it, because you have so much. So there's someone that appreciates that wants to really dig in. That is a definable niche. And instead of trying to pull away from it, I mean, like Tom said, that's a niche that you should lean into and be like, if you're wanting to do this, and really learn and really think deeply about it. And you can still market that to people that aren't necessarily open to that. If you're looking for parents, you're like, yes, the way I teach is I teach critical thinking about this, about knowing your body, right? And maybe you don't, and I teach how to go so deep into the thought, and that we all know from studying whatever it is we study, that leads into everything else we do, right? So I think that's just like a sketch pad for exploration, and plus what you like, right? When you're hot and you're talking about something or sharing some crazy graphic of some book from the 60s about where phonation comes from, you can tell by your social posts that you're amped. You're just like, oh, this is so cool. And so I think that's just a great thing to identify and to build from. And that just sounds like a great strategy just to succeed.
Well, thank you for the affirmation, because again, talking with other people, like what I hear over and over again is, maybe you're just being too limited. Maybe you need to be less picky. And I'm like,
well, I know Steve's probably going to say something too, but one thing to keep the wisdom of that moment is that there are a lot of people that may come into be like, no, I just want to be more laid back. I just want to like express myself and just feel some joy once a week and use it to my voice. But those people can often be hiding an inner nerd, an inner geek, right? They weren't comfortable yet. So maybe.
Yeah, well, being able to do it well, I mean, even for your own, it's frustrating when you're trying to sing around the house. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but when you're trying to sing around the house and something doesn't quite feel right. And even if it's that laid back self-expression, like you said, there can be a high amount of detail. Like, you don't want to necessarily do it in front of anyone, but for yourself, you want to figure out how to get this thing out of you that you're not getting out right now.
Yeah. So you're a guide, right? That's what you are. You're a guide that comes at it with a lot of energy, with a lot of compassion, a lot of care to see where you can push these people. And so some people won't be the right fit for you, but the ones that are, they'll get huge value. That's awesome. Steve?
Yeah, definitely lean into that. I mean, people have some well-meaning advice to be more broad, but actually, I mean, to get to where you want to go, being narrow, knowing that that's your style and who you want to connect with, and then when you bring that enthusiasm, you're going to like do better work, and people will feel that, and you're more likely to attract those kinds of folks. So if you have people that might be, say, I just want to do a campfire sing-along or a karaoke once a week and not really work on you can send them to another place, a different style of teacher that does that kind of thing. But you want to connect with the people that want to do that kind of work, and the nerds, and I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, it's such a great topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I look at I've known Johnny, I've known Josh. Every time I get off a call with these guys, I always have like a warm feeling that I'm aware of in my heart. I'm like, wow, that was a great vibe. Like, I feel like that's a niche too, right? When we're talking like, wow, you guys are great connectors, right? And, that's, for parents with stressed out kids, those are really valuable things that, that's your natural inclination, right? warmth, vibe. And maybe, I don't know if one of you wants to speak to it, since we haven't heard much from you today, but Josh, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, man. I'm probably too laid back, but
Maybe.
yeah, I need to tap into more of the, some of the stern stuff maybe. But yeah, I think you're right. There's something to that. I think the market's bigger than we think too, as far as people being attracted to certain personality types. And I think that just comes with knowing yourself and having good self-awareness. And like, I know my lane, and my lane is to teach beginner students how to get started with the guitar. But my main thing is to get them just to fall in love with the idea of playing guitar and wanting to play. And then, because I know my skill level and my I don't know, theory only goes to a certain point, but I know other people who know a lot more than me. So I'm okay with having, a student for 24 months, 36 months, and then saying, hey buddy, you're pretty much at the same level as me now. You need to go see this other teacher. And but being willing to know where you're at and be able to pass people along. And that also comes with different personality types too. Like, they may need someone who's a little more, upfront and in your face, and that's great, man. Well, if you hang around me for a year or two, I'll pass you to someone who is, but I just want to get you started on the basics on where you're at. So anyway, yeah, there's something to that, man. You just kind of got to know yourself.
Gosh, and being able to be honest with it.
Yeah.
I have definitely, I struggled with that one, as over the years, and you come to a point when you can. But that's a beautiful place to be, is to be at the beginning of people's journeys, to keep them in it. Right. Because I know that I've scared a lot of great students away back in the day, before I realized, I was like, oh, they're not ready for this yet. Right. And suddenly they are. And it's, that's a great spot, lighting the fire. We have just a minute left. It's been an awesome talk. I'm so glad you guys came. This was a great conversation. Hey, Johnny, is there anything I know you were talking about considering a commercial lease. Did you figure that out yet? I was dying to ask, and this is a great crew to discuss it with.
Yeah, I ended up not taking it. It's just too much of a risk.
Yep.
So still trying to figure that out. I did like a Google Forms thing this week to all my students to be like, because of phase 2 in Washington, technically you would be able to do that because it's 5 people max in the room. It's usually one-on-one. And just trying to see where my students are at as far as coming back. And just like some of them are like, no, or like, I just kind of like a no, yes, like just kind of seeing where everyone's at and comfortable with COVID. But I'm kind of thinking more of like in the moment with online lessons and trying to build that, but also thinking about like what's going to happen when things go back to normal. Or is this like the new normal? Or do we have to find studios again? Because the place I was teaching at closed down. It was at the Guitar Store in Aurora, which is an awesome place, but they are done.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Port Townsend to see their loft, because those guys are so cool.
They're amazing. So they're only online right now, but sadly they're gone, and that means I don't have a studio. So,
well, Johnny, the great thing is, and commercial real estate is going to be available for a long time. Like I've talked to 3 or 4 people that do this, and that is going to be a area that struggles, meaning that's good for you when the time comes.
Right.
And I would encourage just making your online presence as stable and positive, and like, let that be the normal. So when you're ready to decide to go back and you're ready to do a space, it's all on you. And then your clients will be like, oh, great, we're back to doing this thing. You shouldn't lose anybody if you decide to stay online forever, right? I'm saving so much time driving right now. I can't believe I'm teaching more than I used to. I've got more students on a waiting list than I did. My students are all practicing like 2 to 5 times as much as they used to. I do make time to call parents, 1 or 2 parents every day, to check in on the kids, because I feel like that's something I can do to be like, hey, how's everything going at home?
Yeah.
But I'm driving 60 hours less a month right now. That is a huge amount of not driving. And so when I do go back to my studio on Capitol Hill and here, I'm not going back full time. I'm not going back to that driving in rush hour, because I don't need to, right? So if there's too many benefits, and
there's no bridge.
Yes. Oh, we don't talk about that. I'm moving into Steve's basement, which is going to be awesome. Yes. So I would encourage you to just keep almost assuming that you're not. And then, when the time comes for you, then that's just like another great thing you can do.
Has anyone I'd like students being like, we're so done with these online lessons.
You
And
have?
I've had students say they're like ready to be in person just
Okay.
because they're more, and I am more that way. I'm more tactile. Like I like that in-person interaction.
Huh.
And like lessons are going well. I've structured it to like it's working, but I just feel like some students, I just feel like I need that like in room, especially like little kids.
Okay,
Little
I'd love to talk about that sometime. So are these younger students you're thinking? Like how old, are you talking elementary?
and younger kids.
Huh.
It's hard to get younger kids to focus, especially if they're like in their room on their own and
God.
they're active kids. It's just like they're just kind of all over the place. I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but
Hey, Johnny, when let me ask you this question. So when you're dealing with a younger kid and they are kind of feeling a little out of control, or you're feeling that they're not focused or you don't have their attention, that probably takes a lot of energy out of you, right? You're just like, oh, this is exhausting. Are you sure, or I guess, are you capable of letting it be what it is and
oh,
understanding you still have a ton of value you're giving them?
for
And
sure.
and have you talked to the parents about what they think?
I haven't. I've mentioned it to some, like, but I haven't really dove into that. I think I've kind of approached what you said earlier, just like this is what it is. I'm gonna embrace it for what it is and enjoy it, and not like let it affect me so much that it's just like I'm gonna get really like uptight about it.
You know, because I'll be honest, I do call parents every day and I just touch base, but I'm selling the experience. I always lead off with like, I'm shocked at how well Towns is playing, and I hope he seems great. He lights up when we start jamming, and I hope he's feeling that way about the rest of everything. How's school going, right?
Yeah,
And you know, it's a sales a little bit, but it's also the truth where I'm just like, hey, I'm shocked at how well this is going.
yeah.
Um, I'm really enjoying it, even if I'm struggling a little bit. You know,
So
I want to say I'm cool with this. I'm comfortable with it. I believe in it, and it seems like that's been great for getting parents more on board.
totally. Yeah, I've been able to like every time after the lesson, I'll like write all my students an email with like the music, and then I usually say something about, hey, this is what we're working on. Like, also like everyone like they're doing. I usually like there's a compliment of like, hey, great job today, or like keep working on this. It's just that type of thing. So I've kind of somewhat done that after every lesson, and I think a lot of parents have really appreciated that, like that connection with them.
Well, so Johnny, if I try this, I mean, just do this. Try doing put some phone calls in, and the questions you're asking is how are they doing? How are you guys holding up? You know, we have a family too. Just, I mean, it's been the most impactful time I feel like I've spent in the last couple months, and I'm in a routine of it now where it's like, and I don't think that they're so grateful because you're a therapeutic human being, right? And if you're like, hey, is there anything I can do to help, with, keeping the vibes going, or, whatever it is you feel like they need, that to give them a little more interaction. Are they enjoying it? I've had multiple tearful conversations. Oh, did you have a question, Karen?
No, go ahead. Sorry, don't. Once you're done, I just had a
No,
thought.
that's it. No, that's what I got to say after you, and then we'll.
Well, the other thing that just a generic thing that comes to my mind, seeing as people are getting streaming fatigue. What I ask, and this is not just for streaming, just a general thing, but sometimes you have an annoying situation. And sometimes all of a sudden it dawns on me, or if I have an annoying situation, if I just change this one thing, like if there's one little thing that consistently gets tripped over, whether it's having better lighting in the streaming, or an additional camera, depending on the instrument. Sometimes there's like just one thing that you don't really think about, or it's not in the forefront of your mind, but it's always the same thing that you're tripping over. Eliminating that one thing can do an amazing, like crazy things for just like the whole situation. Non-applicable situation. My husband and I, we once lived in a very small apartment, and we had this countertop that was essentially a converted shelf. My grandpa had rebuilt it, and the surface of it constantly got, things were sticking to it. It was constantly getting coffee stains because it had this layer of paint on it that wasn't designed for a kitchen. Well, finally, after about a year, I went and got some contact paper, stuck it over the top of it. It was a 10-minute job. I don't know why I had made it such a huge thing, but the difference it made in just how it looked and how it felt. And I think that that type of thing is applicable to every situation where it's like, okay, this was such a stupid thing I kept tripping over. Why did I keep avoiding trying to deal with it? And now that I've dealt with it, oh my gosh, things are like 80% better.
And why didn't I do that forever ago? That is, yeah. Get some contact paper. Oh my God, that's a great story. That's awesome. That, you know what, guys, we're gonna we're gonna leave it there. I actually have to run. This was awesome. Hey, I'm gonna put a post as soon as I can get this done and get this up in Fons family. You know, I see this, if the stuff you shared today, Josh, if you want to throw that up in the comments so other people can see it, that'd be great. If anybody has something they want to share in that, it'd be awesome. This was great. And yeah, let's keep, we'll jump off this and move forward for next week. Cause I feel like, we can really, like Tom says, we can kind of keep this going. Beautiful. Friends, thank you so much for coming. Tiffany, it was great to meet you and see you for the first time. What a killer crew. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Bye.